Hello guys! Today I'm here to answer a question because I received the same question quite a few times during the last month, and I think it's because it's the beginning of the year, so a lot of people either want or need to learn English, and that's when we start looking for classes or courses. And the number one question that I received during the last month was, can I learn English or can I improve my English if I'm older, if I'm close to 30 or if I'm over 30? And I understand where the question is coming from, because I think that the older we get, we find it a little bit harder to learn a new skill or to change something. And I don't think we're just talking about English here, because learning a new skill, any new skill, can be difficult. But my honest answer to this question, if you can learn or if you can improve your English if you're older, yes, you can. I 100% believe that you can. And let's talk about two different situations. So the first one, if you are learning from zero, you are starting from zero. I think what's really important here is the way that things are being introduced to you. During the time that I lived overseas, I used to hear this from my Brazilian friends all the time. The same thing. I hate the verb to be. It doesn't make any sense. And the structure is different, so that's why it seems so strange when we are learning it. But I really believe it depends on the way that we are learning it. Because if you try to learn everything in a very short amount of time, I believe it can be really confusing. So what I like to do with my students, they are a little bit older and they are learning, they are starting from zero, is I like to follow a plan. I like to use a book that is specific for students learning English as a second language. And I like to offer lots of examples. So every time that I introduce something new, especially right at the beginning, when we are learning about the verb to be, we're learning all the specifics and how it works. So I don't like to mix everything up. I like to break it down into sections and repeat the same thing a few times. It can sound a bit boring. And I do believe that this part can be a little bit boring for the student, but it's essential, because if we don't understand that, it becomes really hard to learn new things later on. And well, if you don't understand something, how are you going to use it later on? So I think it's important to be patient at the beginning and really break things down, go part by part. And the second situation, okay, one more thing to finish off this first situation. I think it's important to understand that it might be a little bit boring at the beginning, but you gotta push through it. So you have to be patient with yourself and with the situation, so that you don't put so much pressure on yourself to learn everything in 1 month, because then you're just going to get frustrated. So if you are starting from zero, it's possible. It's definitely possible. And the second situation, if you've already studied English before and maybe you stopped for a while, or maybe you are still studying but you feel stuck, this is a very common situation. You feel like you've reached a certain level but you're not getting any better from there. I think that this is the part when people ask me, is it possible to improve if I'm older? Because I feel like I've been stuck here for quite a while now and I'm older, so I don't know, I just feel like it's too hard to actually improve. So again, it's possible, it's definitely possible. And I think that for this case, for this situation, is when we can use a different method, which is what I like doing with most of my students that are on this kind of level. So basically, we change methods. We always try to include some things that the student really like talking about or really like reading about, and some other situations are life situations, things that could happen on a daily basis, so that we can practice more real life situations and things that the person really likes, because then you are studying a different language, but you are also in some kind of environment that you feel comfortable in, because you're talking about a subject that you really enjoy. Of course, it's not always going to be the same, but I like to make sure that at least once in a while we do something specifically that the student likes, so that the person can feel more motivated. Yeah. And well, I think that the most important step here in this specific situation is to really, I can get a bit annoying in this topic because that's what I say to my students. I like to keep things in English. So the entire class, everything, well, maybe I'm lying because not the entire class, but 98% of the class is in English, so that the student can get more language exposure. And I do translate once in a while, but most of the time I even do something funny sometimes, but I try to explain what it means, so that even if I do something funny and maybe a little bit weird, I feel like this action, trying to understand the meaning of the word, it helps the student remember better. So, of course, it's not something that it's 100% guaranteed that it's going to make everything easier. Well, because especially at the beginning, it can feel very overwhelming to do a class and everything is in English if you're not used to it. But I feel like this makes all the difference. Even if we still talk in Portuguese a little bit here and there, I think that the more language exposure the student gets, the easier things become. So again, answering this question, if you are older and if, especially I think during the second situation, if you feel stuck and you feel like, oh, I can't do this, this is it, this is what I can say for now, this is what I can understand for now, I think that you probably just need to try a different method so that you can spice things up a little bit.